For Zachary, so we got all of the things for Zach. 7:15 p.m. Also, apologies again for my poor Irish accent. I hope I don't offend anybody. The number is so little on the top of my screen, and they glare at me with such intensity that I can just hear their accusations. I'm late for a night out with the girls, yes, but I have a perfectly good excuse, jeez. Considering I didn't follow typical office hours, they really can't expect me to be able to go just as I please at 5:30 on the dot. The client is first and foremost my priority. I have to sit tight when my personal assistant Chris tells me we have a big one coming up and that I shouldn't miss this one. He knows a lot more on the who's who and the what when it comes to these socialites, and I trust that judgment call. I really don't have time for rich people, their drama and their politics. These sort are born with silver spoons in their mouth and who are used to wagging their silver tongues about. I let him handle the negotiating with them for the most part. Why else would I have hired him? But he told me I'd receive a message about it an hour ago.
Now, if only he has the full shilling when it comes to the time.
Come on, I have a social life too, you know, to an extent. Or sort of. Pressing my head against the table, I try to stave off an oncoming headache when the notification of a new email pops up. All I'm expecting is a, hey, this looks like a good project I found. Go send them the design or something like that, really. That's how it often goes. Even with these rich, jammy clients who heard of me from their equally rich, jammy friends, I can't expect them to hire me right off the bat. Which is all well and good and reasonable. We figure out what they want, send them my portfolio, my drafts for the projects, my rates, and hope for the best. This is a big client, Marianne. I'll babysit Baruthiel for you. Please take this one project. I promise this person is huge in Luxbourne. Mr. Parker, this is a formal request to secure the services of Marianne McCullough, herein called the designer, as authorized by Hannah Wright, herein called the client, for interior design work at Ermengarde Mansion, Luxbourne at LX18ORF, United Kingdom. Client hopes to have the designer there on the 21st of October, Friday, with the time pending. But as I open the mail and see that I've been requested by the client specifically, well, I certainly didn't expect that, and it's pretty straightforward too. Anyone else would probably be excited. They would be working with the Hannah Wright. She's just one of those rich socialites that everyone loves to talk about, no matter how hard I try to tune out such nonsense. It would have been enough for me to reply in an affirmative to Chris and Leif, but he has never pleaded for me to take a project before. We've worked together with big personalities in the past, celebrities, bankers, and even a few politicians. My PA had been indifferent about those. So, the question bounced about my skull before I spy one of the email signature attachments. A newspaper clipping from the Luxbourne Daily's business news section. Boasting the headline, Wright Enterprise donates 2.5 million quid to relief. Certainly caused quite a stir back then. Apparently they had invited businessmen and socialites everywhere, in the guise of it being some big business announcement.
2.5 mil and an expensive looking party to boot. These people sure know how to throw their money around.
Not that I should be so callous. They're going to do a lot of good and help a community of people with all those pounds. I, of course, of all people, shouldn't criticize such acts whenever they were for show or not. At the very least, I know they'll be able to pay my rates. With the headline out of the way, however, I find myself staring at the picture that came along with the clipping. Because, wow, here I am expecting a sour old woman in a blazer and a skirt. But the woman that was plastered in the front page looked like she belonged on the front page of an entertainment section, or even, if I'm to be crass, as a pin-up for a glamour. Okay, I'll be real here. A men's magazine. She sure knows how to rock that dress. Wait. Her hair, her eyes, her lips. She can't be her. And at the same time, she is her, only several years older. She looks no, come on, Mac. Well, it's full of pretty blondes. Also, I've never actually read this, so I'm going to read it real quick. At the grand opening of a new Wright Hotel last Wednesday, our local billionaire couple, Luke and Hannah Wright, announced the donation of 2.5 million quid to help Luxembourg refugee keep their services open. Unexpected, but certainly welcome, this follows only a month after the couple's previous donation of the same amount to the Save the Children UK. One of the largest donations, this amount will help keep the Safe House in Luxembourg open for several years. With this money, refugee can help women, children, and victims of domestic violence. There are rumors as well of the charity talking with the couple and looking into building a local center equivalent to their Gaia and Athena locations. These rumors have come to us due to one of the enterprise's employees mentioning a Project EOS. Okay. It's just a coincidence. With a shake of my head, I snap out of it and reach out for my phone when it buzzes, nearly falling off my chair in the process. Who else could be on the other end but the very people waiting for me?
Oh, piss. I'm so sorry, Cam. I'm on my way.
That's what I say. Yet I still don't move from my chair, face flushed and heart beating. I can only stare until I can will myself to reply that yes, I'm accepting the assignment. And it takes even more time for me to just close the image, shut the computer down, and leave. Even then, it's already burned an image into my head. No matter how much I wish it would just disappear. Makes me eager for the alcohol in the company. Makes me eager for anything that can help me up to bed. It's a good thing that the nearest pub's just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. The Galway Shoal, as it is called by those who frequent the place, is the only decent Irish pub in this county. You can pretty much tell that someone is new if they call it by its official name, the Kroll Bar. My home away from home ever since I moved to Luxembourg. Well, that is when I'm not cooped up in my condo and working away. It is good alcohol, good company, and thank God in St. Cecilia, good music. Crowd favorites like the Bothy Noise, the High Wesleyan Men, and Second Fusion Orchestra are often played. Not to mention the singing. I love singing. Anyone could just crack open into a drinking song, and the others in the pub were just wonderful that they'd start singing along. And doing so while intoxicated is the best ways to go about it. Hey, it's a win-win as long as I don't puke in the middle of the chorus, and as long as I can get home in one piece at the end of the day. And today is karaoke night. What better time than to try and sing all my worries away? That's what my intoxicated brain tells me.
The ghost of guilt and sorrow remembers who I am, and in the prison of my heart, I was my only slave.
Yeah, now that I'm hearing it, is definitely the outro music. But drinking only reminds me of my home, and the thought of home makes me think of her.
But in the depths of my cold soul, I'll leave the burden and despair.
Makes me nauseous. It sickens me that the smallest reminder of her can cause me such grief.
I'll fight for what's worth fighting for. Forget the fear, forget the rest.
Of course, that might just be the booze. Any other day, I would have scolded myself for drinking so much.
I lied to the Lord, I lied to myself, I lied to you and everyone I care, until there were no more lies to tell.
But I already have a client, and then we'll be having our first little meet and greet in a few days.
Cowardice is easier than being brave, but at last I found the strength I lost to sing my love letter to you. 'Cause people can lie, but my lone heart beats true.
Yep, this is the outro. I want to at least enjoy this night, get over the hangover tomorrow, and return to being a prim and proper professional after.
That song was for Cam, our lucky bride-to-be. So give her a hand, Galway shawl.
Considering the state I'm in, one can excuse my smug grin as the cheers and applause rise among the pub's patrons. Because, possibly off-key public singing aside, that was actually really good, especially a cappella. I feel like I'm on top of the world right now, and that's a good reason as any to belt out in front of these strangers. With good drinks and good friends, there's nothing else I'd rather be tonight. And I forget for a short while.
And that song was brought to you by Marianne McCullough, everyone! A round of applause!
That was so good. You rock, Marianne. Oh, please stop. You're just saying that.
You know neither of us can hold a tune, Marianne. A toast to our shameless drunk singer. May your drinks forever flow and your notes be ever lovely.
If anyone deserves a toast tonight, that's Cam. Finally sealed the deal after 3 years, eh? Read 'em and weep, bitches.
Kamala's time and engagement ring gleams as she holds it up for all the world to see. She has reasons to be proud. 3 years of living together, and her boyfriend finally asks her the big question. Obviously, she said yes.
Don't get too attached to that ring or the one after, sweetie. I was wearing a wedding ring not so long ago, and look at where I am.
Way to throw ice water on the mood there, Haruna. Come on, read the room.
But enough of me being a downer. Cheers to a happy engagement!
Of course, if something like Haruna's divorce were to happen, I'd be there for Cam. Just as Cam has been there for me, acting more than just my yoga instructor. I can't be happier for my friend right now.
Cheers! Cheers!
Well, we both will be there for Cam, won't we? Haruna and I. Haruna. It's been a real bad year for her since her divorce. She's such a nice person, even loaning me money to open the studio, and she doesn't deserve what her husband had pulled. I'm happy she's smiling again and pigging out like she used to. I think we've all missed our Japanese firecracker. We met in yoga class, something I had joined to keep myself in shape in, well, honestly, so I could make friends when I had moved to Luxbourne. Clearly, it worked like a charm. And it definitely didn't have anything to do with the fact that I brought along my lucky T20 die with me on that first day. No, sir. I love these girls so much.
What about you, Marianne? You're 30 years old and you still haven't got yourself a man.
And there's no rush, so calm the fuck down, Cam.
And you guys know I have a very busy schedule. I don't have time for that.
Oh, come on. That's a lame excuse and you know it. You need a man who'll take care of you and you need it now. Maybe some hunk who'll be your house hubby while you rake in the dough.
I'm quite capable of taking care of myself. Who needs a Mr. Right? Hey, look at me. I'm Marianne McCullough, a lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma, but I can't get myself a date.
I mentioned druids and demons once. Once! They don't even know the rules or understand what the numbers mean. And I certainly am not some sort of holy person. Yeah, going back to D&D though, 9 in charisma and 8 in wisdom, that's actually atrocious stats. Just saying. That would give her negative points on it.
Actually, maybe she isn't looking for a Mr. Right, but a Mrs. Right. Oh, my Marianne, we still love you even if you're in the closet.
That would explain some things. How do you know you don't have a ring anymore? Maybe you two can be together and I don't have to worry about my best girls being alone. What are you on about? There's nothing to explain.
But the more I deny, the louder they tease until the other people in the pub start to watch. It doesn't help at all when Haruna drapes her arm over my shoulder and leans in.
Will I be all yours then? Will you be making me feel like a woman?
I know that they're kidding around, but this doesn't make me comfortable in the slightest. So when Kamala notices my silence and Haruna sees the expression on my face, they stop. Good. And when the awkward air settles over us, the rest of the pub goes back to whatever they were doing before the whole thing ever happened. They probably won't even remember it when they wake up with massive hangovers anyway.
Sorry.
Me too.
Hey, no hard feelings, right?
I raise my glass. They smile. We drink. There's no need to say more. We're all definitely far too drunk tonight. Eventually, the fun times end. It is a weekday after all. And with Haruna being a nurse, she still has to get ready for her next shift. Cam also has a loving fiancé waiting for her at home, and really didn't have to make a fuss about having left some buns in the oven when she took off early. Really, I understand. I was the one who insisted. who was determined to get pissed drunk anyway. Moving to the bar, I sit. Alone at last. Alone with a stranger. Hi, Luke. Haven't seen him here before, obviously not a regular. He hasn't said a word and just sits there savouring his drink. With his whiskey served neat in one hand and lighter in the other, it doesn't seem like he's noticed me yet. And maybe I should go before he does look my way. Because he was pretty and he was blonde. And those two things plus alcohol never did me any good. I thought too late. Judging by the way his flushed face and the dazed look in his eyes, he's as pissed drunk as I am. But whereas I feel like keeling over, he looks like he's still ready to take the catwalk by storm. Really, he just has that air of one of those men who think they can own the world.
Hello there, sexy. Please don't stand up on my account. I already like what I see. Fancy a drink? It'll be on me.
But then again, I might be pleasantly surprised if he proves me wrong.
Want some between the sheets? Sex on the beach? I'm talking cocktails, of course.
Fat chance. But it doesn't matter. We both know how to play the game. And there are two different ways for the night to end. One thing or another is going to happen. Question is, what do I want to do?
Oh no, that's fine. I'd rather order some blue balls or some AMF if you don't mind.
Also, recently learned that AMF actually means adios, motherfucker. So, it works hand in hand with the blue ball special. He looks like he's about to say some witty retort, but stops himself and drowns the rest of his whiskey. I order a mint julep, he gets another whiskey, and we start the customary small talk. Of course, the saying ask me no questions and tell me no lies goes without saying. We ask nothing of each other, offering up falsehoods to establish a strenuous fake connection between two strangers at a pub, if only to pass the time. Whiskey, as I've come to call him, is supposedly 21 years old, single, takes care of his sick mother, and is a manager of some sort. Manager of what? I didn't care to listen to the details. Meanwhile, Mint, as he come to call me, is 29 and I'm... What did I say I was again? Oh, yes. I told him that I was a professional chocolate taster, because fuck it. If I'm going to lie about what my job is, might as well make it fun. It's a pretty decent chat between two pretty drunk strangers. And maybe it's just me, but we might as well fucking expend the tiniest amount of effort in pretending there's something meaningful in this meeting. Would have been nice too if it was just left at that. But during a lull in the conversation, he brings it up.
You know, I've never been with a woman taller than me.
And to think he might have been different from the rest.
Never have and never will, whiskey. Can we go back to the history of chocolates? Did you know that chocolate candy was introduced in 19th century England as a healthier alternative to alcohol?
Saint Lucy was the most beautiful woman of her time. She had men come from the four corners of the world just to see the pure light of her exquisite green eyes. If she were so lucky, anyway.
No, enough of the history lesson. Come on, Mint. You know and I know what you came here for.
Though not every suitor was gallant, and she was no fool. She had known that sooner or later she wouldn't be able to defend her chastity.
Come on. There must be something that gets you going.
So she'd taken out a knife and gouged out her own eyes.
There is something, but I don't think you can handle it.
Impressed with her devotion, God restored her eyes and made them more beautiful than before. He has a peculiar sense of humor, hasn't he? Because that only meant suitors kept going for Lucy, and she kept her eyes in the chalice to scare him away.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I can handle whatever it is.
Saint Lucy, help me. Help me turn away from sin. Help me with my own blindness.
My place isn't too far from here. I won't take care of you if it ends up being too much for you. And no one will be able to hear you if you try to scream. You sure you want to go down that road, pretty boy?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Best thing about having my condo so close to the pub is the ease of access. As long as I can still walk and stand, I make it home. Maybe I'd need help from a kind stranger or two to help me with the last leg if I'd really gone overboard on the alcohol. But I always make it home. Sometimes with company. Of course, that always comes with complications, especially with the real clingy ones. And it isn't anything a good tip about stalkers to the building security can't fix. I'm always nervous though, even if this isn't the first time I've done this. And the first few minutes when we enter my room are the first few agonizing minutes where I try not to panic. Okay, Mac. So far, so good. Don't let him smell your fear under all that liquid courage. He'll leave sooner or later and I'll never have to see him again, just like every other man before him. I'd like to say to myself that the men I've brought to my place were more scared than I was. Yet there is no fear when I look into Whiskey's eyes, only delight. When he starts touching me, I don't even hesitate when I push him against the door. Roughness is to be expected. And as long as he sticks to the script, everything will go smoothly. We'll have our little tumble in the sheets, he'll leave, we'll forget about it. If somebody asked what I really wanted, I would have told them that I wanted a bed of roses, chocolates and music, maybe in an Irish castle. But all I really want is her. And that's never going to be a reality. That was my fault, of course. Because I was afraid. Because I was a coward. They would never hold a candle up to me. She was the light of my life. And I had let her go. Can't even be bothered at the thought of her. Just the single thought of her makes my resolve to see this affair through waver.
Wait!
What is it now?
Yes, what is it now? What's it going to be, Marianne? To sex or not to sex? This is wrong on so many levels.
We're both drunk.
And?
This is wrong. Don't you think it's a bit fucked up that we're about to have sex and we're just calling each other by the drinks that we had? How messed up are we?
Doll, shut up with the ethics and morality talk. It is seriously putting me out of the mood.
If you want to leave now, Whiskey, I understand. I mean, with how smashed you are, it'd probably be best for you to sleep the night unless you want to be mugged. But I won't stop you. And this isn't going to happen.
Bloody hell.
Of course he's annoyed at me for putting off our night of sexual progress. But no means no. And beyond spewing a few profanities under his breath, he surprisingly simmers down soon enough. I was worried for a moment that he might try to force something. Instead, he makes a show of fixing his suit and smoothing down his hair before making himself comfortable on the nearest seat he could find.
What are you doing then? You have a guest in your home. Put the damn kettle on. Dandelion tea if you have it. But I suppose all you have are those shitty tea bags from the store.
If it isn't for the absurdity of this turn of events, I would have flipped him off for thinking I have no taste. But in the end, I just laugh. All I've got are cans of Korean ginseng and lemon balm, though, no dandelion. Without a second thought, I do wet the tea. That's 3 minutes to get the kettle to a boil. 3 minutes where we say nothing to each other. I mean, what do you even say to the guy I was going to sleep with until I changed my mind? Doubt he's in the mood to talk about the influence of Troyes and Mallory. It's still unusual by the time we're both seated on my bed with mugs of tea in hand.
Just so you know, whatever is going on right now is a lot stranger and fucked up than the one night stand.
We are two messed up individuals by your logic.
Everything is messed up, if you ask me. War, terrorism, famine, poverty, loved ones and loved lost. Oh, this whole world is a cesspool.
The dead air is telling when it fills the room once more. One would think that this is the perfect time to burst, to spill about whatever issues that made us the fucked up person that we are today. And it is. But I guess some part of me would rather not put the weight of my problems on somebody else's shoulders. It wouldn't be fair to leave that to the person, and I don't even know if we'll ever see each other again. Sooner rather than later, we both pass out on the bed, mugs left forgotten on the floor. When I wake, whiskey is already gone. Bottle painkillers and a note on the table are the only evidence that I wasn't alone last night. I don't even question where these come from, or just how he knew my real name. I'm just grateful for something to help with the hangover. Might as well. I have a job to do. It isn't often that I think about drinking on the job, but after meeting with the Wrights yesterday, really makes me want to break my self-imposed rules. Because first off, fucking damn whiskey was fucking damn Mr. Wright. And to top it all off, they had somehow forgotten to inform me that they hadn't owned the Ermengarde Mansion yet when they hired me. What sort of person does that?
Ugh, rich people.
There's your answer. I can do nothing but twiddle my thumbs at this, however. Twiddle my thumbs and wait for the go signal. It's not like I can accept other smaller projects. This is a big job, and I should be ready to start on it at any time. Not to mention that my PA practically begged me to be patient to wait this out. It was a hard decision to agree, but I did so in the end. Besides, I'm doing this for the Ermengarde Mansion, not for anything or anyone else. I'd have a headache, whatever I do, anyway. I go to the pub again, but seeing what happened a few days ago, I'd rather not end up in bed with another potential client. And it might be a huge leap of logic, but a library is the next best thing after the pub. I have to go there anyway. I need more books for Dad. Plus, I also need to return the ones I borrowed last time. Finding a new book or two to read for myself while I have nothing to do isn't such a bad idea either. So on a Sunday morning, I find myself going to the only library in Luxbourne to helpfully cool off. After returning an Urzul and a poetry book by Henry Brady, I asked the librarian about several titles on my list, though I don't have much luck on that front. Dialogue with Death has already been snatched, and she bluntly said that she did not keep our mathematical universe for someone who didn't return books on time. I make headway at least when I ask about Siege and Rendition of Havana by Jacob de Pazuello. If you count her snarling and pointing at the history section as headway, that is. The history section is devoid of any other except for myself and a redhead, though I'd wager a guess that Red's just passing by to get to the classical literature section. So many books, so little time. Scanning the books and seeing so many wonderful titles gives me great pleasure. And that's when I spot it.
Hello, sailor. Why don't you come to Mama?
It's not the naval battle book I was looking for. No. It's even better. The newly acquired History of Luxbourne Architecture, first edition, too. I know I just have to get it. I have been waiting to get my hands on the book for so long. The fact that there's only one copy proves to be a problem, though, when Red reaches out for the same book the same time as I do.
I think I had this first, miss.
I can only stare her down when she refuses to let go of the book. Refusing to let go of it as well, I raise a brow at her in the hopes that the fact that I was significantly taller than her would intimidate the girl. Even then, she refused with a rebellious look.
This isn't exactly light reading, miss. I mean, do you even know which architect was at the forefront of 18th century Irish architecture?
Pete. She blinks and I can't help the smirk on my face, which is wiped off when she opens her mouth.
Edward Lovett Pearce, who established the Palladian style through his work with Castletown House and the Irish Houses of Parliament. This bridge was destroyed in this year to delay French troops while under the regency of Mary of Guise.
This is not what I was expecting. Let's be honest. How many people would know these history facts? Aside from me, anyway.
Going right to the obscure ones, aren't you? Easy enough. Tullybody Old Bridge in Clackmannanshire, Scotland, on the January of 1560, if we want to be specific.
Suddenly, it's a game where we throw these history questions and facts at each other, back and forth in hushed tones, unless we want to be thrown out of the library. After a while, it goes from some strange competition into this strange but friendly banter, if it could be called that. But as fun as it is, the exchange soon slows down until we're grinning about how odd the whole scene is.
Marianne McCulloch, my desire for potatoes doesn't quite match what the stereotypes suggest.
Rebecca Gales, the Scots' supposed hatred for the English wasn't enough to stop me from teaching their little spawns.
By then, we'd forgotten about our little tug-of-war, although she still holds the book in her hand. I'd let it go without realizing when she answered my first question.
History teacher, then?
Got it in one.
No wonder you gave me a run for my money. Now, if we're talking about architecture, I'd blow you out of the water. You're from where? Luxburn Uni?
Oh no, just St. Goretti's.
Ah, yes, Saint Goretti. You'd think a school would choose a more appropriate saint to name themselves after, especially when they have very young students.
And I'm guessing you're an architect, if you're so confident about the subject.
Interior designer, Miss Gales.
Please, just call me Rebecca. You aren't one of my students, are you?
Marianne, then.
I could have said that I was an architect, but there's no point in explaining why I wasn't one anymore.
So, I've never seen you before. I'd like to think I've met every history aficionado in town.
I blame the rock I've been hiding under, of course. That, and I'm usually only here on the weekdays if time allows. Work often has me meeting clients on the weekends.
That must be interesting work.
It allows for some creative freedom, sure. But it's like working with children sometimes. Though you probably have it harder working with actual children. The hardest part is convincing them that your idea is their idea.
That sounds exciting.
It is!
But isn't that true for any workplace, though? We just cross our fingers and hope there aren't any man-children in charge of important things. Any big projects right now? I can't imagine that interior designing is a frequent thing.
I'm working on the Ermengarde Mansion. Lucky me. That mansion. Inta. Wonderful. Breathtaking. I can't wait to start in it. Now that is beautiful architecture.
A pause. It looks like she wants to say something at my mention of the house. I'm not surprised. That place is certainly popular with the locals, especially with the urban legends attached to it. In the next second, though, she seems to think better of it and drops what she was about to say.
So, do you have a portfolio or anything I can take a look at? I'd love to see your designs. Maybe you have some on a tablet? I've met some designers before, and they're always going crazy over these virtual room apps or another.
A tablet? Please. Callicrates didn't need those silly iTabs when he built the Parthenon. I certainly don't need one to design a house.
The computer back in my place is all I have. Why should I buy such an expensive gadget if that will just get outdated within a year when what I have is just as functional? The traditional ways had a far more personal touch, in my opinion. Not to mention those smartphones are awful tools of procrastination. I can't even count on one hand the number of people I see going outside only to have their eyes glued to the things. And fuck touch screens. They're evil little things that make typing, what should be a simple task, harder.
I do have an online portfolio if you'd like. I can...
Speaking, or thinking of the devil, seems to have summoned it, because before I can even carry on, Rebecca's attention wanes as she pulls out her mobile. For what I can only assume is a call, she gives me an apologetic look before standing up and excusing herself. Off farther into the aisles she goes for some privacy. I do my best to give it to her as well, trying to tune her out.
Well, is something wrong? Lunch at the coffee house? Sure, I can make it. I'm not too far. I can be there in 10.
But with how quiet the surrounding is, she can't blame me if I overhear snippets of her conversation. When she returns with a sheepish look on her face, I know that our friendly chat has to be cut short.
Sorry, I have to go and meet with some friends.
It's fine. Totally fine. No need to even apologize.
About the book.
Her embarrassment increases twofold when she realizes she's still holding on to history of Luxembourg architecture. I don't give her the time to think about it as I put a hand up and shake my head. Fishing out a pen and paper with my bag along with one of my business cards, I hand them over to her.
You know, I'm busy with work, so I might not even be able to take a peek at it anytime soon. You can go ahead and have it, but you'll have to ring me up when you're returning it just so I can snag it right away. Deal?
She makes quick work, penning her number down and handing it back to me with a grin.
Deal. Just message me during school hours, of course. You have a good day then.
You too.
With Rebecca gone, I'm left alone standing in the history section. Although my original plans were simply to sit down and read a good book, our little pop quiz, if you could call it that, made the time pass by without any of us ever realizing it. It was fun, and I do believe I made a new friend. Good job, Marianne. Even with the talk of lunch, however, I don't feel like grabbing a bite to eat. There are still other books to be read here. and I'm hoping to find something that will help me while I work with the rights. Something like how to deal with arseholes professional leave 101, just in case. I've dealt with a lot of uppity, snooty and rich clients before, but it's still better to be safe than sorry. Because Luke Wright just takes the fucking cake. He probably manages to eat too. Seems the world is conspiring to keep me from my me time, as my mobile vibrates in my pocket the moment I find something from the shelves of the classic literature section.
Marianne McCulloch, Charlie Rose Design speaking.
Rose Cooper here, Miss McCullough. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time or anything, but I just wanted to check in and tell you that we've got the clear to hand over the documents. Madam Wright told us that we should forward the floor plans to you.
Already? How do they go through the process so fast? Surely there's so many red tape to even acquire the forms of the transfer and rights? No matter how rich the rights are, that shouldn't be this quick, right?
So, if I can just have your email, I'll be sending them your way.
I'd actually like a physical copy of the floor plans.
Oh, I suppose that's fine. I'm not at the office right now, but I can inform Miss Santos of your request.
I'll make sure to drop by the office after lunch if that's fine.
Not a problem. Right. Well, cheers.
Right. Cheers.
I don't know. I just don't. Is there some sort of deeper miscommunication when we last met? These things take time. It's been, what, a day? Less than that even. There isn't even a point in trying to make sense of these people who seem to be larger than life. As it looks like I'm on the clock starting today, I might as well eat. Grabbing some fish and chips from one of the street food stalls, I find a table to spend time with a copy of Marquis de Sade's The Crime of Love, since Rebecca left with the book I wanted. I've read this one before, along with the rest of his works. This would be the 18th time, in fact. But it's always nice to read through it again when I don't have the time or to enjoy something new. Besides, when you're dealing with people so filthy rich that they just end up plain filthy, you need the good old Marquis sound of voice.
La blessure se trouvant sans aucune sorte de conséquence.
The wound being without any consequence. Of course, it's folly to think that things have no consequence when everything actually does. Briar Realty Corporation's Luxbourne's branch isn't too far off from the city centre, just a few blocks away, and I can easily eat and walk. I rather use this time to rest before I can go into the flurry of activity. No doubt there'll be much to do once we get our hands on the mansion.
Still a lot better than working on another condo, at least.
Surely, no matter how much BRC and the owners put into the restoration and preservation of the place, any big repairs would be superficial at most. I am quite certain that, in their haste to sell the property, they did a rush job. It isn't an infrequent thing to do, despite how it is frowned upon. There'll be a lot of hidden issues that I will need to weed out, and I have to make sure I find every single one of them, especially the more serious damages. Structural integrity is definitely on top of the list we'll have to consider. The building might look sturdy, but it is centuries old. That alone will likely pose a few problems here and there, put limitations on what we can. Besides, despite how much I detest these rich snobs, they can pay rather handsomely, so long as I do an excellent job and do more than necessary. Those two things always make sure the referrals keep coming. I don't even have to hunt down projects for myself. When I do go up to the BRC's office, I can't help but stop and stare when I enter the building. With the lunch hour closing, employees should have been back already if they still aren't filtering through the doors. I get that it's a Saturday, that people probably feel tired and lazy to be working on a weekend. But they're still on the clock and not bumming around about wasting company time on extended lunches, breaks, and cigarette sessions. The office is spacious as it is with these big corporations. Each person is given their little space of what's usually a 2x2 meter cubicle. There's a lot more empty chairs than there are people here working at their desks. Reminds me far too much of my last day at Porizgova projects during the massive layoffs due to the Irish economic crisis. But it isn't just that, though. everything is quiet as a grave. It's as if these people are merely ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, Santos comes in through the door looking as if she's just seen one. She looks at me with wide-eyed like a deer caught in headlights, ready to bolt at any moment. I'd ask out of concern, but I feel it's not my position to do so. What if it's something personal? I'd simply be overstepping my boundaries. Really, it's none of my business.
I presume that Miss Cooper told you why I'm here, Miss Santos?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just got back from lunch, But it won't take too long. Don't worry.
Of course it won't. This whole project has established itself to be a matter done in haste. I do hope it doesn't mean that people are being careless in their duties.
She flinches and looks like she doesn't quite know how to respond to that. Thankfully, instead of opening her mouth, she leads the way towards her station and goes to fetch the floor plans. It won't take too long, she said, but it does take a bit. Time spent to compose herself, most likely.
We usually just email these things.
I prefer the real thing.
Sorry about that, folks. Felt it coming and could not stop it. Not that you would know. You probably have your nose stuck in front of your smartphone when you're not working, and even when you should be working playing those mindless addictive games. I definitely wish Chris would stop playing that Batcat thingy during work hours too.
I know what you mean. Digital painting is nice, but nothing beats the smell of real paint. Not that I go and smell paint like a crazy person, but, the real thing is different.
Wait, what?
Yes, nothing is quite like the real thing.
Checking out the floor plans, I see that I'll have a lot going for me. Now I know how Ray felt when he found the Central Park West building floor plans for that one movie. This is why I became an architect in the first place. Jacobean style is its finest. It's a thing of beauty. Look at these enormous rooms, the delicate harmony between empty spaces. And speaking of empty spaces, there's something rather odd about these ones.
I feel a bit silly saying it out loud because I've never lived in a big house, let alone a mansion. But during the tour, I had the distinct impression that the rooms were bigger. Maybe the scale is wrong? It's not much of a problem. And it is an old house.
There had been little details here and there that I would have liked to address during the open house tour. But it was all forgotten in the wake of Miss Santos' incident and the trouble with ownership. The wine cellar's going to be a problem. I shudder to think about what sort of repairs they did to the place. There might have been things that were swept under the rug, pushed to the dark corner of the room, and hidden away in barrels. Water damage could have been covered up. There had been floods due to heavy rains in West England just last year, after all. And if there's any sort of damage to the house's foundation, that's going to be a lot of work. I was not able to look at the attic as well. For all I know, a whole family of vermin could have made their nests there. Working with pest control is always the worst. The sheer size of this place is staggering, even if I did just say it was a lot smaller than I thought. I just have to be biting more than I can chew, but who doesn't like a good challenge? First things first, I'll have to.
So, do you want a coffee? The one from the staff room is pretty decent.
There's really no need. I'm sure you have rules against it.
Rules against bringing someone coffee? That's ridiculous. And even if there were regulations against it, nobody's really here to tell Sir John. I've already brought 2 mugs, and I'm not going to drink them on my own. Come on.
I have to stamp down my annoyance at being distracted. Seeing the young woman though, it looks like she has a lot on her mind. If babbling is her way of dealing with stray thoughts, I'm not really the one she should be babbling to. How should I respond? I give her time to speak up. When she just stares, I clear my throat.
Yes? You have something to say?
As embarrassment creeps up in her face, I snatch one of the coffees from her and take a sip. Too hot.
Just thinking and speaking off the record, it must be fun what you do. You go to people's houses and you make them, well, pretty. You're sharing your art with them.
It's a little bit more complex than that. But if you put it that way, it is fun. I wouldn't have done it for 7 years if it wasn't a little bit fun, I guess.
These big clients always have paintings in their homes. Do you have a supplier for art pieces?
I didn't expect to hear such questions from her, seeing how well she handled herself yesterday. I didn't doubt then why she was assigned to an important sale like the Ermengarde Mansion, despite the little accident she had. Now she just looks too young, too nervous, and unsure of herself, although her enthusiasm must make up for that in spades. In fact, I wouldn't have believed it if she had introduced herself the way she is at the moment. Why, watching her now, she actually looks like she might still be in college. Acts a bit like it too, when I think about it. I thought she was a teen slumming it out in the mansion when I first saw her there, lying on the ground. Surprise, surprise, she turned out to be one of the estate agents handling the property.
The clients usually support artists of their own choice. If they don't, I'm always happy to refer those that I know.
That's cool.
They're very picky. I don't think a hobbyist will have an easy time getting their work sold.
Hey, I'll have you know I was a student of the fine arts.
And yet here you are, selling property. Maybe you weren't a very fine student of the arts.
Maybe I took that a bit too far. She bites her cheek, and it looks like she's barely holding herself back.
It's not like I had a choice.
She mutters it under her breath. I barely even hear it. But the hurt is there. And it makes me wonder what brought it on. Although it is understandable if her reason's what I think it is. Very few people make it big in the art world. I can see why she'd be upset about it with that enthusiasm. Didn't have a choice when I left Ireland. It was that or years of unemployment. The recession and the toll it took in the construction industry was out of anyone's control. I don't know what choice she wasn't able to make, whether it was about her being in art school or something else. But the world isn't a fair place, and the sooner she accepts it, the better. Still, with that forlorn look on her face, can't help but sigh. The girl reminds me far too much of myself when I was younger.
Well, if you're thinking of commissioning your paintings, I'll have to see your work first.
Oh, it's not... I didn't mean it like that. I don't have any paintings.
Really? You sounded a lot like you still did art or want to. Now I'm starting to worry that you might just like the smell of paint.
I'm not a paint huffer, sheesh. I just mean I don't make much anymore. I don't really have the time for it. The tools and materials aren't exactly cheap either.
Everything has a price. It sounds like you're making excuses for something you're presumably passionate about. If you really want to practice art, a little out of your wallet isn't much.
It's not that simple.
It's not? Life's simple. People just like to make it complex. Speaking off the record, I have some advice for you, kid. Either go for what you want, or stop thinking about it when you have something else. That is unless you enjoy making yourself miserable. Then by all means.
You know, if you wanted to look at the floor plans without me bothering you, you could have just said so.
Would you have left me alone?
We'll never know now, will we?
Strange air settles in the air in the room afterwards. Doesn't help that she doesn't immediately leave, as she said, lingering awkwardly by the door with that downcast expression. It's clear there's more she wants to say, perhaps even to defend herself and her choices in life. Or is she expecting me to dish out more of that advice? It is an awkward affair, and I choose to hightail it out of the realty office as quickly as I can. Though I am able to keep myself professional at all times, does not mean I like it. And seeing that most of the day is already gone before I realize it, I choose to head back to my flat instead, despite today being a Saturday. No fun, but at least this way I can definitely avoid another unpleasant encounter. Considering how much I'll be seeing whiskey in the near foreseeable future, I have a feeling I'll need all the rest the weekend can give me. For the first time in a long while, excited as I am to work on the mansion, I cannot wait to be over and done with this project. Monday couldn't have come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before last, I spent most of the Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure that they want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants take the elevators up with me. Makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she's going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm saved from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. The Wrights lived at the very top, the penthouse, creme de la creme when it comes to condominiums and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump through so many hoops, so many security checks just to secure a key card. Not only because of building management, but because of the Wrights' personal security. Sometimes felt like I've been interrogated for a job, for a crime, not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my appearance, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil. The elevator opens and I'm greeted by none other than a whiskey's not-so-little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security. And only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
In other words, please give me this reason to piss him off. He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out teacup, cups, and all sort of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Except in the quiet and isolation instead, I brace myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spill tea all over my lap in surprise. I look up expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak up about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I am normally not this nosy. What should I do then? We're waiting. I have no business with it. These rich people usually value their privacy above all else, after all. Unless, of course, they're posting pictures on social media bragging about what good people they are for allowing people to be themselves to be interviewed for some magazine. Then again, the whole reason I'm in this mess is because I don't give two shits about what's going on with people like them. And I'm not gonna get caught snooping around and be accused of some imagined wrongdoing. I'm not going to be some busybody, detective wannabe, run off to investigate, whatever that was. Probably just some mundane thing like a lamp falling over. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for Mrs. Wright with my tea in complete silence.
Could I at least put the telly on?
I don't really expect him to answer. If he hadn't heard the crash, I doubt he would have heard, but
As long as you don't watch some silly soap opera, the LBC News would be fine. The William Walker Show is on too if you prefer that. Not that I watch it, but my husband does. The remote is under the coffee table.
Oh, sure. Maybe I'll be lucky and catch the doc on. I heard they're having reruns of the classics and I want to see the second meet sixth in Spain. If not, just the news then. Thank you. I'll let you get on with your cooking now.
did he just ignore the crash a while ago then? Whatever. Fetching the remote, I turned the TV on in the hopes of filling the silence. Trying to, anyway, because the thing won't turn on. Doesn't that make the silence more awkward or what? I know I might not be the best with tech, but I'm sure I can work a simple television remote.
The batteries must be dead.
What? There's blood everywhere. Help me, it says in red. I look in my own hands, find them clean, yet I can see my grisly reflection gaping back at me. And though there's nothing staining my skin, I can feel the sticky and warm feeling of blood dripping down my cheeks. I should be worried. Instead, I feel my attention drawn towards her. Her beautiful blonde hair, her soft lips with skin so fair and swaying hips. I want nothing more than to hold her, plant my lips on her neck, and to run my fingers through her hair. She laughs and she smiles when she looks at me. Where are her eyes? Temptation's gone. In an instant I recoil, horrified at this reflection I'm seeing, only to back into something, or rather someone. Mrs. Wright stands there, twirling a lock of her blonde hair, a small smile on her lips, and a hand on her hips. I almost back away, but I ground and remind myself that this is my client, and whatever I just saw, well, wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that perhaps I'm going a bit daft. It would be preferable, of course, to think it was all the trick of the light, or the makings of an overactive imagination.
Good morning, Mrs. Wright. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Have you been standing there long?
No, I just came down and saw you were having a hard time with the telly. We must have forgotten to change the batteries. Are you all right, dear? You're looking a bit pale. Haven't you had breakfast yet?
No, I'm fine. I had breakfast already, Mrs. Wright. I just need...
Well then, you mustn't have had enough breakfast. I'm all for a good diet, but that's the most important meal of the day. Johans is cooking up pancakes. Pancakes will make anyone feel better, he always says. We can sit down and tuck in. You'll feel right as rain once we get some fluffy, syrupy goodness in you. And are you sure you're fine, Marianne? You're shaking.
Looking down at my hands, I can see them trembling. Really? Just because she looks so much like her, I'm becoming a damn train wreck. I've been seeing her in my dreams and hearing her voice ever since I met Miss Wright at the mansion. With so many blondes in the world, what was different with her? What was different this time?
I just remembered something, that's all. It's nothing to worry about.
Okay, good. And also Isabella's at Max, so sweet.
Are you sure? I am all ears if there is something bothering you. I don't mind a good story, and I don't want it to affect your work performance.
Gossipy wagon, isn't she? She should just leave you alone. It's not like you need her.
You don't have to worry about that, Mrs. Wright. I say business stays business, and anything else can stay in the doghouse until I'm done with work.
I just have to bear through it, don't I? If I tell her that I'm hearing voices, that'd be a fast track straight to the nut house. What else can I do? Saint Divna help me lest I become like her father Damon, insane at the thought of the lost love and mad in pursuit of another.
Shall we talk about your work then?
If you'd like. It's on your time, after all.
I've been told many good things about you, and I've seen some of your work before. Others speak very highly of your work etiquette, yet I've never heard of you before. Not even a whisper of the McCullough name.
Well, I've only been in Luxbourne for 4 years. Tried to make it big in London for nearly 3 years before, and I've only been working these high-quality projects for the past year.
I stick straight to the point. It's best to be brief when talking to clients, after all. Keep it clean-cut as much as possible. Yet at the same time, I have to make it engaging so it doesn't look like I don't want to talk to them.
I imagine it hasn't been easy. I can't see why you've moved from London to Luxbourne, though.
Job vacancies were fewer at the time, and I had a lot of competition in London. Let's not even talk about the living costs there. But I'm glad I moved here, even if it hadn't been smooth sailing. If I had it easy, I probably wouldn't be working projects like these.
Why even bother explaining to her? She won't understand. She's practically born with a silver spoon in her mouth. The woman could probably snap her fingers and have servants attending to her beck and call.
She does look the part of a spoiled heiress, doesn't she? It'd be a relief if she just that. Something that's different from Mrs. Wright and her. Before she can get another word in, words that may have proven me wrong or right, she looks up at the loft with a fond expression on her face. with just a simple glance. She can put in so much love that I feel a tad bit jealous of whoever holds it.
Good morning, Luke, darling.
Good morning, ladies. What a wonderful morning it is that I wake up to such a beautiful sight. I do hope you two are getting along. I smell pancakes. I do hope you two are considering a diet just so I can have them all to myself.
Rude.
Don't be a pig, Luke. You eat all of those and you might stop fitting into your tight suits.
What? I'm not a pig. You don't think I'm a pig, do you, Marianne?
With a saucy smile and playful wink, I can help but think you're a bit of a pig, Whiskey.
I don't know, Mr. Wright. I'm an interior designer, not a zoologist.
The only styles she must be familiar with are statement of works.
Well, don't be a bore. You two might not be in a rush, but I'm going to go ahead and feast.
If you dawdle too long, he'll hog all the syrup.
Rich people are so eccentric.
Come on then, we can discuss business over food.
There's no delay in the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it's too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be terribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look good and smell heavenly. A bowl of clotted cream, fruits and syrups, jams and other spreads are laid out next to them, making it for a colourful arrangement. If this was brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accept just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables.
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
I stop. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or the place for it, however. Instead, I use this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies in waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Well, we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear?
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room. And you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room, right there, in the northwest corner?
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano? I can hardly imagine it. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright says so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theatre, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Well... Mrs. Wright has her points, though I really didn't want to put into the spot of a husband and wife. Yeah, I know Luke went down, but Hannah went up. But with the way the two were looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinions.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
See, a garage isn't architecturally feasible and it isn't going to be financially sound as well. We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough costs of these things by now, love. Masters in business administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
That catches my attention more than anything. Sounds more unbelievable than Whiskey playing the piano. She really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Luxbourne U, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know. We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I? Right into the Ermengarde Mansion in the rice is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them staring at each other any time. Nobody's saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment I think he might start. But instead he just stays quiet, and so do the rest of us. In the end, the sufferable silence stays. I have never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up into the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride, and I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze and wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front doors, keys in hand, and I can already see Mr. Wright plotting.
Alright, Hans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving the car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday I'd like to know how Johannes can even handle and tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employer, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least, I'll only be working with them during the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There'd been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item on the agenda would be the grand staircase. It seemed sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage nor wear and tear, probably rethreaded during the renovations. Peeking under the ground carpet, the word is properly installed with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum though. Structural conditions, from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape. And the handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. Can't look much more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased to hear this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and turns around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand. Again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them, there is a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two. If anyone were to see them like this, there'd be little doubt that they still loved each other.
Of course. And I want a garden full of them.
Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs, if anybody needs me.
That leaves Mrs. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere, I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils least of all. What's next? We're going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings.
I'll go and snoop about upstairs. You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes without even asking if I need her here, I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. Mr. Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor, and I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure, but on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. Which floor should I go first? We're going to stay on the ground floor. Alright, just because there's one troublesome client shouldn't mean I'll let him in the way of my work. The parlor's my first destination. Mostly because I figure Mr. Wright is hiding down in the wine cellar and making plans there. I'm going to bump into him sooner or later, but I'd rather make it later. Much, much later. The place, upon closer inspection, is in good shape. Don't doubt that this place was done with the utmost care, considering it would be one of the first rooms visitors would see during the open house. There's a stain on the carpet, most likely by one of the guests at the time, but it isn't anything a good cleaning can't get rid of. Next is the music room. Or at least that's the plan.
Locked? Oh, come on now.
Rattle the doorknob again, harder this time to double check, and even give it a good budge to see if it isn't a problem with the door itself. But nope, definitely locked. That's weird, considering the rest of the rooms aren't. Could just be this one, though. And I can try the other door through the ballroom if I really want to get in. And that's when I hear it. The sound of the piano. Though it just plays one note over and over again. Makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand, and I back away from the door. Though I wasn't exactly the superstitious sort. What am I going to do? The door's locked. I can just go back to it later. Maybe see if I can go through the ballroom and the music room door opens and who else but Luke Wright stands by the doorway. He looks a lot like a cat that ate a canary, and I didn't appreciate the way his eyes linger on me.
Isn't it common sense that locked doors mean someone wants a bit of privacy? You needn't try to break the door down.
Or did you just want to see me again that badly without the misses? I don't see why you would, though, Mint. Nothing really happened between us.
Well, I wasn't looking for whiskey. I was just going around to do my inspection. Thought it needed a push, just in case the door was stuck and actually needed repairs.
So you really are some fancy interior designer, huh? Had you told me you were one, I would have called you a piss taker. I figured you'd be, I don't know, an assistant going for a drink after a week with a tosser of a boss.
I'm just glad you thought me any sort of professional with how ossified I was. I must have not looked the part, so I understand your surprise.
He doesn't offer a witty retort, and he grows quiet for a moment.
At first glance, Hannah didn't look like some fancy finance manager when I first met her either. She was the pretty daughter of this rich, powerful man. When she was introduced, they told me that she was not there as the man's daughter, but as a part of management. I thought it dubious. All the beautiful women I knew before her, they used their looks to get what they want. And there she was, with all that she could ever need in life. And yet she works hard to earn her keep.
It sounds like you admire her.
Hearing that, I too can't help but feel admiration for Mrs. Wright.
You enjoy your job, don't you, Mint?
It helps me earn my keep, as you would put it. A bit strange to say out loud, but it gives me purpose as well.
Do you think then that, maybe, Hannah would want to go back to being a working person?
Taken aback by his question, I wait for further clarification. What makes him think? What makes him ask this? And why me of all people, right? Then I see no explanations coming, I think. You should ask her.
Shouldn't you be asking her this? Isn't her opinion much more important than that of someone you just met in a pub a few nights ago?
Yep, and we are back up.
You're a woman, and I figured you might know more. I mean, people are always saying that women are fulfilled by having husbands and having a good home. But then I see ones like you who look happy having jobs. Maybe she's like you, and having a job would be better for her.
Just because I'm a woman? You do know we don't all think the same way. But I don't know, I'm not married or anything, but this shouldn't be a complicated matter. She's your wife for how many years? Talk to her. Ask her what she wants. Don't you guys talk during supper or something?
That gets him thinking. Or at least it looks like it does.
Well, I should let you get back to work. Thanks for talking with me, I suppose.
Right. But anything goes awry if you take my advice. Just remember that I'm not some marriage counselor. So take it with a grain of salt.
My marriage goes down the shitter, I'll sue you. Noted.
Wait, that's not...
Too late. He takes a step back into the music room, shuts the door, and leaves me there looking gobsmacked. He wasn't serious, was he? Nope, he was joking. That man, I don't understand him at all. One moment he's this huge arse, and then he's this person the next.
Odd guy. Still needs a good arse kicking if you ask me.
Okay, so forget about going into the music room then. That's fine. He'll have to go out there sooner or later. In the meantime, I can go around and check the rest of the house. All my worries fade when I step into the ballroom. And, well, the whole place is just grand, isn't it? I can see why the rats made sure no one else would take this place from them. Anyone who has it will certainly be the belle of the ball. It's pretty much one great big status symbol. I don't think I can do much of a thorough investigation in this room, so I note it down for later. Moving on to the kitchens, I check the ventilation and the general fire safety in the kitchen. This bit is important for a place this size. I would, of course, suggest bringing an actual fire safety inspector over for a more detailed inspection. Wouldn't do to see such beautiful architecture go up in flames, after all. I take measurements of the countertops and the cabinets. Note down what type of wood they use. They wanted some of these recreated to hide modern appliances. There's a loose floorboard in the farthest corner, and some of the others had scratches, but everything else seems to be in decent shape. My concentration is broken when someone knocks.
You can come in. Door's not locked.
I wait, expecting Mrs. Wright or their butler to come in. But nobody entered. Instead, there's that knocking again. It's louder and more urgent this time. I'm pretty sure I didn't lock the thing.
All right. I'm coming. Just hold on.
When I move to open the door, though, I realize something. The knocking isn't coming from the door, but from somewhere else. The trap door? I pause for a second, waiting. But the knocking has not ceased. And soon enough, it becomes desperate. The dull thuds from before switch into what seem to be scratching. Desperate and insistent at once, as if grasping for respite.
Is somebody stuck down there? Fuck!
Where did that come from? How did it even get down there? That put the heart crossway in me, it did. I love cats, but they have no business giving people a fright. For a second there, all those ghastly rumors about this place have come flooding black. Now peering into the darkness of the open trap door gets me thinking, and it gets me curious. Seriously though, I should really make sure there aren't any more surprises from down under. I don't think the Wrights would appreciate it if we find a litter of kittens making a house of the wine cellar. Mr. Wright seems the type to skin a cat if any of his precious wines were to be contaminated. I am done with the kitchens anyway. Going down a flight of stairs while wearing high heels isn't always a bad idea. Descended into the dark underground only made it worse, but I managed anyhow without any major slip-ups.
These stairs need work, that's for sure.
Surprisingly, this wine cellar's in good condition. No water damage from last year's flooding, and apart from the dust and cobwebs that have accumulated, the place will likely hold for several more years. Racks and barrels line the walls, making the spacious room look smaller than it is. I'm no expert, but it looks good enough for immediate use without any further additions. Bloody whiskey will have a field day. I think so anyway, until I feel something crunch underneath my feet. Whatever few bottles were left behind here are now nothing but glass under my heels. The cat's fault, I wager. And it's made a downright mess with red slicks pooling from the remnants of a good drink. There's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of the stuff to have just been a few bottles, though. And a whole trace of it blows from one end of the room to the other, and I follow, fully expecting a leaking barrel or a whole upturned crack. Instead, it just keeps on going, and it stops in a large puddle at the very back wall.
What a waste of wine. Why is it so sticky, though? Ugh.
It's thick, too. Nothing like wine. Of course, it could just be mold.
Maybe it's not wine. Go on, touch it. I dare ya.
Despite it all, I find myself answering, because it's her voice. Amy Lorraine. Lovely Amy. Pretty Amy. I can imagine her standing there with me, laughing and pestering me as I did my work in the way only friends can. She was my friend. The only one I had at St. Sampson's. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down at me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except for her. Sometimes I wish for the good days when we were friends. Now she's nothing but a ghost, though I try so hard to get to her. I really, really do.
What am I, 5 years old? Oh, damn it, it's stuck under my shoe.
I double dare you. Hell, I double dog dare you. Don't be such a scaredy cat. It's probably wine. What else could it be? Blood?
Don't be ridiculous. Why would there be blood down here?
If I was the joking sort, I would have said it might be the reason why the previous owner sold the place. Maybe the ghost stories are actually true, and they wanted to get away from the walls that dripped of ectoplasmic goo, whatever other ghouls haunted about. Doubted. Hardly believe any of that voodoo nonsense as it is. But as I stare at the mess at my feet, probably thinking like a fool while I'm at it, I notice something strange. It isn't visible, unless one is really paying attention, but I can see the red gunk seeping through the cracks in the walls.
What's this, then?
I worry about structural damage and damage to the foundation. I worry about the wine cellar, as the wrong conditions can lend to the deterioration of its contents if temperatures and humidity are not controlled. Up until I see how clean cut the crack is. Runs along the edge of the wall and vertically along it, where a door would be. Pressing my hand against the wall lends credence to the idea as I try to feel where it would give way.
Ooh! Could it be an adventure then? A secret passage? There must be a hidden switch somewhere. Go look! This is the most interesting thing you've done by far.
If there's a hidden room here, that could certainly explain the discrepancy in the mansion's floor plans. Wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that there could be hidden rooms and passageways all over the house if we're to follow that logic. And boy, isn't that exciting. This feels like something straight out of a game. Suddenly she touches my arm and I flinch away in shock. That shouldn't be possible. I understand auditory hallucinations, maybe even visual hallucinations. But that was...
You look surprised. What's wrong?
You... That's not possible. You're...
dead.
Aren't you happy to see a dear old friend, though? I'm hurt, I am.
What the hell is going on here?
Oh, isn't it obvious? I've come back for you, so that we can be together again.
When she touches my arm once more, I recoil. What does she mean, together again? She's dead.
No! Leave me alone!
Leave you alone? But I just got here.
Turning around, I met with the Wright's butler, who looks at me with a different look. And when I look back, Lorraine's gone.
I wasn't talking to you, just thinking aloud is all.
You should really avoid talking to yourself, Kint. Do more of that and others will think you're insane.
Yes, thank you. Is that all you're here for, or has your master sent you running down here for something?
Oh, no, I am just down here to admire the place. I've not been inside before. I thought I would look around before we return to the city. The car is already running, you see, and I suggest you go back to the foyer, unless you wish to be left behind. It seems you are in good company already, after all, with this house and your imaginary friend.
Wait, we're leaving already? But I haven't finished inspecting the rest of the house.
Be that as it may, there's a sulking man-child up there who wishes to go home. We are all subject to his whims, lest he throw a tantrum.
Can't help but smile at that. He's a strange guy. I still can't imagine how he can work for a guy like Luke Wright, though. I imagine the blonde arse ain't an easy guy to get along with. Whatever the butler was having to tolerate that, I want 10 of.
And we wouldn't want any soiled knickers or spilled milk. Why don't you go head on and I'll be right there.
Very well. Do be careful on your way back. I saw some broken glass on the way and it will not do to cut yourself on them.
I will, yeah. Just tell Mr. Wright not to blow a gasket or anything. I'll be just a minute.
Speaking of blowing gaskets, there's something else dangerous here. Whatever is behind the door, it could pose problems. Best case scenario, it'd only ruin good stocks of wine. But who knows what's behind that false wall? I'll have to come back to it. It's already dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we are only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars above us. The sight of them helps me compose myself much more than several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two still stand out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eyes up to the stars, and Mr. Wright, arms crossed, has his eyes down on the ground. It is the crunch of the grass under my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time, what took you so long? A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons. Marianne doesn't seem the sort to idle.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job? I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
Glanced back towards the mansion. Knowing what I had seen, that curious thing in the wine cellar, which is stuff I'd only read about from fucking horror stories, and her, I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. If I'd seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses, say that I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old sick father. Just pay the fine, which is probably outrageous for a contract like this, and let it go. I should turn it down. But for some obstinate reason, I can't. In the same manner, I haven't let her go of her, of the regret that has shadowed me since that day. Much as I hate to admit it, even to myself, seeing her again, the mischievous glint in her eyes, the loose tendrils of her hair curled around her forehead, it's something I've terribly missed, and now that it's here, almost within arm's reach, my father would tell me sometimes you just simply have to go through with it, consequences be damned. And, well, I really don't have any logical reason to say no. At least not something a client like the Wrights would want to hear from a professional designer.
It's certainly an interesting project. You can be sure I'm seeing it through the end.
Such dedication! Oh, I do love the determination.
You were always determined like that, weren't you?
Hearing her voice once again sends a chill running down my back. Can't wait for this day to be over. From the mansion and through Anslem, I rode with them in silence. But as soon as we hit city proper, I asked to be dropped off and bid them goodnight. I thought it best if I didn't stay too long in confined spaces with either Mrs. or Mr. Wright. Both seemed to cause me serious trouble, and if the project had been any less interesting or grand, I would have dropped it without a second thought. Would have. Shouldn't have. Won't. I assured them that my place isn't that far off, and I have to fight off the urge to roll my eyes and groan when whiskey throws me a little smirk. But even in my own home, peace is elusive, as is sleep. I lie awake, thinking of what I saw in that mansion. Who I saw. If I so much as hear a single whisper from her, if I so much as see a wisp of her hair, I'm afraid I'll go mad. But none of that matters. None of that happens, and it makes me feel hollow. For 2 nights I've had trouble sleeping. And it's only one morning when fatigue has already let me rest that I'm reminded of what terrifies me so. In my restless dreams I see that mirror, the one in the study, and in it I see her. I see them. Lorraine and Hannah. Hannah and Lorraine.
Poor pathetic Marianne. Work, work, work. She'll work herself to death.
See, she doesn't listen. That's all she did. Look at what happened to me.
They talk among themselves with cruel smiles and venomous tongues. Or rather, to themselves, 2 heads, 1 body. A horrible mockery of these women, as if they were the one and the same.
More's the pity. Life goes on and goes out, and she doesn't even see it.
Do you think she'll even realize when she's kicked the bucket herself?
When they say a person has a hard time telling when they're in a dream, it was true often enough. But even this bizarre sight, even with the obvious implications that this isn't real, I can't.
Likely. Is that any way to live at all? She might as well be dead.
Cruel fate that she's alive and I'm... well...
Though they speak in each other's ears, tones low and hushed, I can still hear them as clear as day. Their whispers permeating the air, heavy and oppressive. They bury and dig into my head like tiny maggots worming their way into my skull. It is only then that they take notice of my presence. Eyes turn towards me and I can only feel small under their scrutiny. Caricature smiles etched on their faces, mimicking each other grotesquely.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Have you been looking at us? Spying? How scandalous. Such a naughty girl.
I'm sure you were just waiting for something lewd to happen, weren't you?
You know she will not admit it. She thinks it wrong. You've said it so yourself.
Yes. She thought me wrong, impure, abnormal, because I loved her.
My breath hitches, and I open my mouth to protest, but they stop me, screeching. A mirror that holds some cracks, lines spidering across the surface.
Do not lie! We know the gluttonous thoughts you try to deny, girl. All those desires you bury beneath that sickening guilt. You act the martyr when you turn the bed you lie in into your own hedonistic hell. You are nothing but a tainted soul with filth-stained flesh held together by falsehood and pride.
They look livid. And when it looks like they would lunge, I wake up, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of me. Sorry if you heard that, guys. I was just putting on a sweater and it hit my headphones, or at least the metal part of my headphones. With a groan, I squint and find a certain fluff ball sitting on my chest, looking as pleased as Punch. She is the overlady of the cats, queen of despair and destruction of nice furniture. Though I can't stay mad at Her Majesty because it feels like she did something good this time. I was having a nightmare, and I can't even remember what it was about. Trying to recall leaves a terrible bit in my stomach. Maybe it's probably better that I don't remember.
Good morning, Baruthiel. Who's the good kitty? Are you hungry? Is that why you woke me up?
Contented purr comes from my sweet dear before she jumps off the bed and trots towards the kitchen. On the other hand, it takes me a bit more before I roll out of bed and start my day. Mornings before work is always a quiet affair. Shower first, then a mug of coffee and a bowl of oats. Sometimes I do stretches, and I always check my work email. The Wrights will be moving into the mansion today. I don't think the paperwork is officially done yet, but it isn't too far-fetched to think they were allowed to start their move despite that. Rich people like them will always find ways to get what they want after all.
I'll be leaving you again today, Beth. So you behave and make sure not to shred up my new covers, okay? And don't worry, I didn't forget tomorrow is Black Cat Day, so I'll throw you a party. But only if you behave like a proper lady.
She barely gives me a glance as I say that before going back to her own food. Cats. Still better than humans. Most of the time. Too bad I have to work with humans. The place is already busy as soon as I get there. The foreman, the one I recommended to the Wrights for his work ethic, is early as usual. Already he's instructing men here and there with the bigger loads. I have no chance to talk to him as Mrs. Wright appears and greets me with a smile.
Mrs. Wright, I hope everything has been to your liking thus far.
Good morning, Marianne. It has been delightful and these men have been very helpful. Look at all this. It's so busy here. I'm getting tired just looking at them go.
No complications so far with the movers or the previous owners of the mansion, I hope?
If anything, the only one being problematic is Luke, if I'm to be honest. He can be such a diva, but I do like that about him.
She stops, looking up at the upper landing where Mr. Wright comes through with two other movers in the mirror from the study.
Oh, do be careful with that mirror. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt because of broken glass. Why are you even having it carried around?
Oh? You did say you didn't want the mirror, and I keep getting distracted by it. If I'm going to turn the study into my office, I'd rather not have it there. Where can we put this?
Well, you are not putting it in our room. Why don't you go, I don't know, put it in the wine cellar for now? We can figure out if we'll store it in the attic or somewhere else later, yes?
You heard her, boys. To the cellar it goes. Mush!
The movers bring down the mirror one step at a time, no matter how much the man tells them to hurry. An unsettling feeling grows in my stomach as I see our reflection in the bloody thing. That's the mirror from a dream. Miss Wright only shakes her head and laughs at her husband's antics as they take the mirror out of there. He's backhand at it again soon enough, pointing the men here and there. I'd say he's the man with the plan, but it sort of interferes with the layout and design that we've agreed upon before. I'm about to point it out, but...
It's better you let him realize his mistakes on his own, rather than tell him of them. That way you do not get blamed for his actions. It is more fun, too, to tell him, how does they say it? I told you so, once he slips up.
Been working with him long enough to know that, huh?
It's not like I plan to make too much of a fuss, unless what he changes is actually crucial.
It happens often enough, when one is made to accompany him nearly all hours of the day.
Up, higher. Come on now.
Still, he could at least be less pushy about things.
Careful now. I know your pictures are framed by cheap plastic, but those are framed by African blackwood and are one-of-a-kind commissioned paintings. Each one is easily worth a lifetime of what you lot make.
It's surprising how hands-on he is compared to my usual clientele. Well, the both of them are, actually. It's refreshing to have them participate despite their initial reluctance.
Luke, do the dishwashers go into the kitchen or the butler's pantry?
Pantry, Buttercup. Careful, that's Emma. No, you there, put that down. You do not manhandle a Napoleon Abueva.
He really needs to tone down the dramatics a notch. Mrs. Wright and the butler look like they're used to it by now. For the rest of us, well...
Sweetie, why don't we go and sort your suits upstairs? Let your Hans and Marianne and the foreman deal with the rest of the work.
We have this, Mrs. Wright.
Yes, please do go before a blood vessel bursts. Bloodstains are so troublesome to clean.
There's an obvious sense of relief as Mr. Wright is dragged out of the room, leaving the movers to do their work on peace. Some grumbling even comes from some of the younger workers. It's a good thing the family butler isn't some blindly loyal tool to his boss, or there would be trouble with Mr. Wright.
He is such a bratwurst. Whiny baby who never got enough hugs from his mutter.
Probably lost in translation, and not that I'm condoning talking about someone else behind their back, but I think you meant to call Mr. Wright a horrible brat.
Well, he is that too. There are a lot of things I can call him, but I mean to say that he is a big weenie. A childish name for a childish person. Like a child, he whines when he doesn't get what he wants, and he breaks the toys that he has.
That gets a laugh from me, as well as a few of the movers who linger near. He and I carry boxes, instructing the movers where they should be, and generally taking over Mr. Wright's work. Goes off without a hitch, and the man is helpful, efficient, and capable with physical labor, despite his clean-cut appearance. A gentleman to boot, taking boxes from me when he sees me struggling with them. Speaking of boxes,
Hey, one of the boxes for the kitchen is missing. Has anyone seen it? The one with the pots and the knives.
The Bratwurst had it brought upstairs, thinking it was for the attic.
Why would he... Oh, never mind. I'll go get it.
why even bring a box of pots and pans to the attic? That man is ridiculous. There's probably no point in making sense of what he does if he does them just because he can. At least it turns out that I don't have to make it all the way up to the attic. The mover probably, on Mr. Wright's orders, left the box on the stairs.
At least it's not that heavy.
I managed to hoist it up without too much effort. And the time it takes for me to do that is long enough for me to overhear an odd conversation I could never in my life imagine coming from the couple like the Wrights.
Mom, if you're not careful, I might go a bit loosey and I'll start bringing cats home. And soon enough, one day you'll find yourself going home to a farm just filled with felines that follow you everywhere.
Oh, don't bluff. The things would shred up your precious furniture. Besides, you don't even like cats.
True, true. Dogs are infinitely superior here, of course.
Wrong, but continue.
But what about the wet dog smell? The mess. I'm not cleaning up after a mutt, no matter how cute. If you think about it, a cat would be better.
For once, I'll have to agree with Whiskey on this one, though I can live with Mrs. Wright being a dog person. But as amusing as this conversation might get, I really shouldn't be caught eavesdropping or slacking off on the job. At most, I should be looking at ways of possibly soundproofing certain rooms, perhaps bringing it up if they don't realize the lack of it. I'm going to save this and potentially use it on a different day. I really should move on. No matter how bizarre their conversation might get, I really must go. Not to mention, just standing here when I have no more reason to loiter just feels wrong. Besides, the magic word here is privacy, and I respect that. Keeping in mind, I won't have a guilty conscience built to the brim with the secrets of the rich and famous in my hands. I'd take the stairs 2 steps at a time if it wasn't in danger of getting stabbed by my baggage, and nobody else was in the foyer. But as Johannes takes the box for me, I only give him a small smile. There's no reason to gossip about the peculiar conversation of his employers. He's probably heard much odder things from them. He doesn't seem to be a cat or a dog person either. As soon as I follow him to the kitchen, he raises a hand to stop me.
Nine. I know you are a very skilled architect, and I have seen your work, but this shall be my kitchen, and I shall fix it according to my wishes. Yeah?
Kind of weird anyone would think that pots and knives are supposed to go anywhere but the kitchen, huh?
I assume he's gotten them confused. It wouldn't be the first time.
Confused? How does that even work? I understand covers, carpets, or even curtains getting mixed up. Hey, I'd even understand pots being mixed up with silver decor. But knives?
Oh, he has a collection of ornamental ones from his father. It takes them everywhere he goes, wherever he moves.
I guess that makes sense. A bit. Still odd.
He merely shrugs before going back to work. The movers work efficiently even when they're left alone, and they do quick work of their responsibilities. The head foreman comes, standing in the doorway to consult on me with this and that, and I have to go help out every now and then. But they pretty much have everything up to standards. They skip lunch entirely, not even realizing when they do so. Nevertheless, all is well as the butler gets to heating up the leftover bubble and squeak from breakfast and makes a general batch of fish and chips for everyone. Most likely simple in comparison to what we serves to the Wrights, but well done nonetheless.
That smells good. Want to wrap up some for me to go?
It's an idle observation more than anything. My thoughts are, as they are, preoccupy me.
If there are any left, one can't go wrong with fish and chips. Everyone loves them. Even my husband. And he's American.
I don't like fish. Moving on. I really do hate getting so up and close and personal with my clients. It's a distraction. It is obvious to me that I've gotten my priorities all wrong when I can't help but think about what I heard, what I learned from the Wright couple. These things have a way of creeping up on a person. thoughts, ideas, whether they are fact or fiction. They creep up and fester, crawl and writhe in a way that twists. I hear giggling, delighted, mocking. They creep up in me. The sensation of fingers ghosting briefly on my arm causes me to freeze and hiss.
Don't!
I half expect her to be there.
Whoa, no need to scream bloody murder. It's just me. Quiet down before you break glass.
But it's just whiskey.
Don't do that again. Ever.
I don't like being scared. Though I don't believe in the slights of spooks, being startled is not on top of the list of things Marianne likes. Lucky for him, I have nothing within reach, or he'd have gotten on friendly terms with something like a rolling pin.
What was with that reaction? Were you really scared? Has Johann's been telling you ghost stories? He just loves to scare people. Isn't that right, Brother Gurium?
The butler's expression is unreadable. I hardly see any reaction in his face to begin with since I started working on the rights, aside from vague amusement. There must have been something there, though, judging from Mr. Wright's own contented look. The expression on Mr. Wright's face is almost cruel. But now if there's no smoke, even as Johannes leaves the room to serve the workers their late lunch.
So, now that we're alone, Marianne, what are you so jumpy for?
I was just thinking about all the urban legends the movers have been telling me about this place.
Don't tell me you believe in that tosh. They're nothing but tales made up to scare children. Timmy, Billy, don't you dare go up to that big mansion and get in trouble there. The ghosts are going to get you.
That's a boring way to look at it, but that's usually what it is anyway, no? Like I said, I was just thinking.
It would be a relief, actually, if those rumors of this place being haunted is true. That just means I'm not going bonkers. Hearing, let alone seeing a dead person isn't exactly the symptoms of a healthy mind. Sure, it means there would be such things such as ghouls and goblins, but at least I'd be sane. On the other hand, there would actually be a dead girl walking around.
If you could excuse the inane question, Mr. Wright, you haven't noticed anything weird here?
Simple enough question on the surface, yet I notice a man stiffen as the question leaves my mouth. Wouldn't have noticed it if I wasn't watching his reaction intently, but in his eyes I see something dangerous.
That depends on your definition of the word weird. Are we still on the topic of this place being haunted? Because no, things have not started to fly around and we have yet to require an exorcism. I don't think my head would like to do the whole 180-degree turn thing.
Well, maybe that, but no strange people?
Aside from my usually weird butler and all the weird men traipsing around touching my things? No, not really. Why do you ask? Have you noticed anyone strange while you were here? Because you must report it to Johann's and he'll have security handle it. But these reports better not be about ghosts and things that go bump in the night. I don't want to waste manpower on the boogeyman or senseless witch hunts.
I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Wright. But no, it's nothing like that. I guess the mansion is just strange for me. It's a unique project.
No strange men or women lurking about then?
Dead teenager would technically qualify as strange. But yeah, the whole I see dead people thing isn't going to go over well.
None that I know of. But I'll inform Johannes immediately if something comes up.
I'm serious, Mint. You see anything, anyone suspicious, and you report it. Immediately.
I think that goes without saying.
The concern he has on the talk of security is gone quick. His arrogant and smug smirk returns if a bit subdued. Whatever smarmy remark or innuendo he has at the ready never comes, though, as voices from the dining hall ring out.
So, is this a full-time job for you then?
Nah, I just freelance mostly, for magazines, newspapers, and events. So you can't really call it a full-time job. It's fun and it puts food on the table, but it's not what I really want to do. At least not all the time.
That would be the magazine photographer, I presume. As always, Mrs. Wright talks in such a kind and cheery fashion, no matter who she's talking with. It certainly puts people at ease around her. Sounds like it's working on the photographer, too. Hearing them, though, seems to put Mr. Wright in a sour mood. At least if his small scowl is anything to go by. Is he alright? Is he jealous?
Hey, are you alright there, Whiskey? You're looking like you need a serious drink.
Up and up it goes.
What is it that you want to do then?
Films. Documentaries mostly. But cinematography is a lot more difficult than photography, right? I was working on the thing, actually.
I'm fine. Just a bit winded from all that moving about. It's been a long day.
And the day's not over yet. So if you can excuse the bluntness, you either shape up to help or ship out back to your room and let us do the rest of the work.
He hesitates, eyes locking firmly on the door that led to the dining hall. Even now, we can still hear as Mrs. Wright and the photographer chit-chat in between shots.
It's not my place to say this, but she really does seem to care a lot about you, you know?
There's no need to remind me of that.
A strange smile appears on his face before he shuts his eyes and sighs.
Tell the workers that you're all dismissed early.
That's nice and all, whiskey. But we really shouldn't just take off. Delays aren't a good thing when it comes to big projects like these. The sooner we tackle certain issues, the better.
And I trust you can take care of these issues another day. Don't make me ask again, Mint. Just tell the others they can go home early. And to not worry, they'll still get paid the remaining hours.
I don't know what prompted this. With the air he's putting on, though, I know better than to meddle and prod further. Besides.
Fine. You're the boss.
Walking out of the kitchen, I just accept the fact that whatever he says will go while under his roof. Mrs. Wright and the photographer are still too busy in conversation to notice me, even as I make my way through the dining hall. Besides, I didn't want to ruin their fun.
Well, it wasn't really a big thing. People didn't like Blue Fonzie very much.
People don't like a film about colours. I suppose they would have liked Blue Bibby a lot more.
Going to the foyer as we stumble upon the family's butler once more, who raises his brow at my presence.
And where are you off to in a hurry, Miss McCulloch? The foreman is looking for you.
The Bratwurst wants us off the clock. He's dismissing us early because of... Oh, I don't know. He just wants us out of here.
I'll go and call a cab for you then. It would be for the best that you leave when he asks you to.
I don't doubt it. My ride back to the city doesn't take too long to get here. Granted that there are some difficulties at first because the driver didn't know where the Ermengarde Mansion is. He tried to have us hand over GPS coordinates from our smartphones, but some other technobabble I didn't care about, but the butler didn't understand. But as soon as we told him it's that haunted mansion over in Anslem Village, he knew just the place. And finally headed over, albeit with some hesitation. All the way back to the city, the driver keeps complaining about that place giving him the willies. Gives me the willies too. I'd love to slap at him. But as soon as the thought occurs to me, another blossoms in the forefront of my mind. One that has somehow bothered me greatly, more than my exasperation over whiskey and this project or wanting all of it to stop. There's been no Lorraine whispering over my ears today. Worse. Worse to find myself searching for it. Searching for her. Damn new earthy. Loose ends. Fucking bloody loose ends everywhere. Probably butchered that pronunciation, so sorry guys. I thought I've already moved past this years ago, and it does nothing to help me curb my frustration. If anything, it only ensures that I want a stiff drink. And where do I go? Where else do I go to drink? Tuesdays are for karaoke and Wednesdays, improv. Usually, it's these four guys who did hilarious games. The one with Irish drinking songs are always a crowd favorite. I've been wondering, is that a reference to Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because they had an Irish song thing. Oh, I-dee-die-dee-die-dee-die-dee-die-dee-die. Though I love a good laugh, stand-up comedy isn't my thing. And without Cam or Haruna or any other distractions, I end up drinking a lot more this time. And when there's several bottles of beer in me, I get really, really embarrassing.
Hey! G! Psst! G! Come over here! I need you for something!
It's a good thing that the bartender's a nice fellow. I'd probably have been kicked out of other places by now. Or worse. If push comes to shove, all he would do is give me an easy smile and shake his head, even when he's attending to other customers. Just like now.
Give me a moment, will ya? I gotta go check on her.
He's some Asian guy, and I'm pretty sure I've seen him here before a couple of times, although he never talks to anyone else except for G. Girls used to be all over him too, but he always turned them away.
I'll be here. You go do that before she falls over. All right. What is it?
Ashton and Zachary are like low, and same with Rebecca.
Do you need someone to help you get home?
Bartender, pour the wine.
I think that's enough alcohol for you, little missy. I'm cutting you off.
Yep. Wine comes from the back of my throat as he pulls my bottle away. I've no hope of getting them back once they're behind the counter. Even in my drunken mind, I don't dare hop over it for them. Because what little sense I have left knows that I'd sooner take a floor dive than succeed in wresting a bottle from a sober man. But that doesn't stop me from trying to reach out with my arms like a stupid idiot anyway. He smiles and shakes his head, just like I know he would, before going back to the other guy.
Right now, where were we? How you holding up, boy?
With no drink and no one to really chat with, I would have gone home or gone to sleep on the bar right then and there. But I'm not ready to stand up and try to trek back home just yet.
Same old, same old. I'm still on the Luxborn firm case.
Those blokes they talk about being in dark suits, whisking people into the night or some shit and all that. Didn't the media call it some ridiculous name in the morning news?
What is it this time? Wait, don't answer that. They've called it a lot of things. As long as people don't start running around claiming they're the Illuminati. So, what have you got for me this time, G? Anything good?
Slow down there. You haven't even told me what sort of dealing dosh we got. Who are you looking into this time?
Their talk would have interested me, would have kept my attention if I gave a damn. But in my current state, I can barely give two fucks about the things going on around me. All these words are just buzzing, barely surfacing from the sea of sounds that is the pub. And it would have stayed that way, perhaps even drowned, if I didn't hear his name.
Luke Wright. You know the guy. And don't pretend like you don't, G. It takes a special kind of ignorant not to know who he is.
That smug blonde who likes throwing round his money. He was just here a few days ago, as a matter of fact. Great tipper, if you think him just dumping a wad of cash on the counter after having too much whiskey counts as tipping. Why are you asking? He dirty?
You have no idea, G. He's probably the worst sort you can imagine.
Luke fucking right. Fucking whiskey. Even without him around, I'm still hearing about the guy. What an absolute fuck. Despite this, I find myself getting up and sauntering over to join them before I pipe up.
Is this smack talk about Luke fucking Wright I'm hearing, eh?
Private conversation here, lady.
There's only amusement on G's face. The Asian guy, he starts to look ticked off as hell.
Don't worry, Holmes, she's clean. And she might be able to help you with your, predicament.
Course. A drunk's just stumbled through here with what I need. Get real, G. No offense, lady, but you're smashed.
I know, right? Nothing beats being drunk after a hard day's work. Especially when you're working for Mr. Luke Wright.
So, she works for the guy? Doesn't that make her, I don't know, suspect?
See, have a little faith in me, why don't ya? I don't have much, and you might as well have something to go off. You're the one who was so desperate to come running to me for business.
Yoo-hoo! Still right here, fellas. 5'11", can't miss me. Unlike Shorty over here.
With his 5'5".
What's with that mad look? You want to dance, boy? You don't look like you can bust a groove. Maybe a leg, but with that fancy coat of yours.
To add insult to injury, I move directly behind him and use the top of his head as an armrest. But when he shakes me off, I plop onto the seat right next to him.
Don't try me. You can hardly stay on your feet. We don't want to ruin your fancy coat, do we?
Ah, children, the both of ya. But you're still standing after all that, are ya? Matt, you see this giantess? She's a legendary regular here. Been treating like there's no tomorrow. I'm a bit jealous. Can't do that anymore or my liver will give out on me. Good with the mic, too. Don't see you much recently, but I guess you're always busy, aren't you? You're some fancy designer or something, if I remember correctly.
Wait, I know you. You were at the open house for the mansion.
Yeah, that's right. Marianne I'm a famous interior designer extraordinaire. Ooh, that rhymes. Anyway, you guys were talking about that weenie Luke Wright, right?
Or something. Can't really talk about it. I don't even know if I can trust you. Even if G said you're clean. But anything would be of help.
Well, I don't gossip about my clients, if that's all there is to this.
You wanted to gossip about him a few minutes ago, Marianne.
And that was the beer talking, not Marianne.
You won't mind if we ask the beer a few questions then?
Maybe. Depends on who's asking and what they're asking. But seriously, that guy is abso-fucking-lutely frustrating. One moment, he's an absolute dickhead. And then he's acting like an actual decent human being the next. I just can't figure him out. I can't imagine how that pretty wife of his can put up with him. If I were her, I'd dump his flat arse straight up.
And I'm not just saying that because I think Hannah's pretty or anything. Luke's a catch too, they both are. But I really cannot for the life of all things holy see how they even work out together.
So, Luke Wright, have you noticed anything strange about him while you were working with him? Anything peculiar of note?
You're the one being peachy right about now, Holmes. But nah, nothing that comes to mind off the top of my head. He's just like most rich, smarmy arseholes and then some.
A giggle pops up and I press my cheek against the cool countertop with my eyes shut tight just because. Eventually cracking one eye open just in case they thought I fell asleep, I grin at Holmes.
So, Holmes, I'm guessing you're some private detective or something. Is it Hannah? Did she pay you to look if he's been cheating or some such?
Hannah's the wife, right? What about her? How is she?
How is she or how is she? Well and good. Definitely the nicer of the two and sexy as sin to boot. Not a private detective then. Are you from one of them tabloids wanting to know if the Luke Wright doesn't know how to put his pants on right? Pants. I'd take the pants off of...
Here we go. Slipping. I haven't been this drunk in a long time. It's a miracle I've been coherent for as long as I have right now.
I'm asking you if you've noticed any odd behavior from her.
Odd behavior? What? I wonder how she'd be drunk. I can just imagine her like the giggly sort. What do you think?
These are serious questions, Marianne. Lives might just be at stake here.
What do you expect? She's smashed.
Why am I even doing this? This is getting me nowhere, G. She's not a reliable source. The chief, let alone the courts, aren't going to take the word of a drunk. This will be dismissed, and I might be in trouble if they try to argue that I coerced a testimony out of her. This is a fucking train wreck.
You're a fucking train wreck now, if you ask me. Maybe it's about time you apply the brakes and stop for a bit.
The wave of despair that comes over the both of them is palpable. If feelings had a taste, it'd be bitterer than the beer I'm full of. And it gets me thinking. Though thinking doesn't get me far with too much shite in my system.
You know that's not an option. Thanks for being patient, McCullough. Good luck with your work on that mansion.
Speaking of that mansion, there's something going on in that place. Something. As day! No wonder Mr. Wright likes it so much. It's as fishy as he is. Rotten bloke. Maybe that Santos girl is really onto something, eh? Suspicious shite, I'm telling ya. Explains why she's so reluctant.
What do you mean that Santos girl is onto something?
Before I can get another word out, there's a hand on my shoulder and everything starts to spin. Quickly slap his hand away the best I can and send him the foulest look I can muster.
Take your hands off me, pipsqueak. I'm not a lady who's shaken or stirred unless you want me up chucking on your pretty hair. But it's just like I said. Are you sure you aren't brain damaged or deaf? Santos girl from VRC showed us this creepy letter. You know, just like those spam stuff you get in your emails. And we thought it was some joke or that the girl was just a bit too green to handle a big sale like that. You should have seen the look on their faces when they saw it. Whiskey, that's Luke fucking right, you get me? And the missus didn't look too happy either. I should have taken a picture and posted it everywhere. When rich snobs give you that face, no wonder the Santos girl went all mental on us. Working with them does that, you know? I think I'm about to. I'm not mental yet, am I? Anyway, just like I said, in that man... Hey, you okay? Holmes? You're looking a bit shaky yourself there.
And he really is pale. Paler than before, at least. I can can see the gears turning in his head on overtime. Suddenly, he shoves a card in my hand. On it, his name, Ashton Frey, and his number. But he has second thoughts as he grabs it from me and slips it into my pocket.
You're cute, pretty boy. But I prefer blondies.
Well, you're not exactly my type either, lady. But listen to me. If something comes up, don't do anything rash. If you think you're in danger or if you see anything suspicious, call me and the authorities as soon as possible. You understand me? That's 99...
I know what the damn emergency number is.
Right, 999. Good. Anyway, I have to run. See you, G.
Guy's quick on his feet, already up and at him, as soon as the number leaves his lips. Watching him as he maneuvers through the crowd and other pub goers is enough to tire me out. Fast as he can, he's out the door and throws us a smile, and that's all we get to see before he's gone. Just like that.
Oi, what about your drink, boy? I'll go put it on your tab then.
Holmes boy always like that, G?
Pretty much. But what about you? I suppose I'll put your drinks on your tab too.
Yeah, and if it's fine by you, I think I'll go take a bit of a cat nap here. Just for a sec or two.
Go right ahead. I'll wake you when I close up shop.
Mumbling a sleepy thanks, I doze off on the spot, face pressed on the counter. Already I dread the pain I'll have for sleeping in such a weird position. But when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Not that I can get much sleep to begin with. Do people ever have the feeling that they're working on something they really enjoy, but still it eventually tires them out? Because honestly, I've been feeling like this.
You have certainly exceeded expectations, Marianne. Everything looks so marvelous, and in such a short time, too.
The moments like these make all the hard work worth it. Definitely.
Well, I can't take all of the credit. People have certainly been enthusiastic about the idea of working on the Wright mansion. There won't be any more problems unless Mr. Wright has any more objections about the second bedroom.
Oh, no. We proceed with that room as planned. I already agreed to him having his greenhouse and his vineyard and his stables. He may as well let me have this one thing.
We're only about halfway done, but the honest satisfaction on a client's face is enough for me to push through. Let's face it, in between my exasperation at Mr. Wright's antics and her, I've been burning the candle at both ends. Can't even close my eyes without seeing a dead girl's face. Dead girl. Dead. She's dead. I have to keep reminding myself that. Burying my feelings as deep as they buried her. 6 feet under. Shouldn't waste so much time on someone who's supposed to be gone. I wasted so many years thinking about her already. There should be no need to bother myself with the dead, when I should be bothering myself with the living. Too bad the living are usually as complicated, if not more, than ghosts of the past.
But don't you have a party?
Yes. But Luke's just being a sweetie, you see. That friend he's visiting. He's having marital problems and he's just trying to cheer him up.
It's even more complicated when the living in question is a pair of rich and famous socialites way past their honeymoon phase. And I've been somehow roped into being a relationship counselor.
They've been married for a long time and they've hit a... how do they say it? A rough patch. His wife has a drinking problem and can be very neglectful. The poor thing really does his best to be a good husband, but it's never enough for her. Sometimes I think it's the years. Maybe it's been so long that they've lost that romantic spark. What do you think?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I need to ask. This is about you and Mr. Wright, isn't it?
Suppose it is. What would you tell me?
Then, I tell you it's none of my business. I tell you that I don't want to meddle. But if the troubled husband with the neglectful wife asked me for my honest opinion, I'd say that he shouldn't base his happiness and his self-worth on someone else. Maybe he should try being independent for a while. See what it's like when he isn't trying to please someone else and doing things for himself. Everyone's supposed to be their own man or woman, right? A bit of breathing room never hurt anyone. We shouldn't let our fear control our lives.
Why she thinks a single woman like me would be the best source of relationship advice is beyond me. Still, I talk and answer to the best of my abilities. Without realizing it, I'm already pouring out a part of me that I had thought were long gone. I'd like to believe my words will be of some help to Mrs. Wright. If I'm being honest, though, they are some help to me. Like some weight I've been taking off my shoulders. Lorraine.
I really should handle what's left of the work.
You won't be attending the party? Oh, you really must, Marianne.
The weight of what happened to her hasn't left me yet, did it? Maybe.
I'll try to stay in chat. Maybe grab a few bites and a drink, but I can't be around for the entirety of the event. My apologies. Busy, busy, busy.
You must stay a while. I'd love for you to meet some of my friends, and they're ever so excited to meet you. You need to say hello to the Lees, at least. If it wasn't for them, I'd never even heard of you.
Maybe it's about time I changed that.
We'll see. So, if I can be excused?
Certainly. You'll have to excuse me as well. I must attend to the party before any early birds arrive. Because, believe me, they will throw a fuss if things aren't ready, even when they're not supposed to be here until an hour later.
Though I shouldn't dwell on the dead. I shouldn't just callously forget about them, too. Saying that I have work left to do is an easy enough excuse to make. I know how other people see me. They see someone so obsessed with her craft that she would so easily miss things like a party for it. Outside the parlor, people hurry about here and there, in preparation for the Wrights' grand housewarming party. None spare me a glance as I slip past them, each working on their appointed roles and not daring to slack off while they work for what is probably the most powerful couple in Luxbourne. I make it into the kitchen with ease, the wine cellar being my final destination. But when it's a great task, ever simple? Probably never. And this is a great task, isn't it? My greatest one yet, that is worthy of being called a quest. I'm not acting as Marianne McCullough, the professional interior designer, when I chose to lie about being too busy for a party. I'm Marianne McCullough, a lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma. Yeah, still not great stats. Just thinking about it like that makes it a bit cheesy. And it helps with the fear. It helps overcome the insane thought that I'm actively seeking out something that has been plaguing me for years. Might face my worst nightmare, or I might see nothing and find my self-imagined grand quest fall flat. And who would I have thought that the gatekeeper of my final quest would be someone I thought would be an invaluable ally?
Schnell! Hurry up, you snails! We are on a deadline and you are wasting my time!
The butler comes from the cellar into the kitchen, tailed by a couple of others, people who I assume are most likely chefs or bartenders. He raises a brow, seeing me just standing there by the hatch, by the trap door. It almost looks like he's going to throw me out for being in the kitchen without permission. But then he motions for the others to disperse and familiarize themselves with their surroundings. Meanwhile, he continues standing there, preventing entry into the darkness beyond.
What are you doing here, Fraulein? This is not the place for guests or in an architect right now. I request you leave.
I was just looking around for any last-minute things, yes?
Yes, you have been doing that a lot. Looking around, snooping about. Now is not the time for such things. If you're not careful, people might think you are up to something.
The look he gives me as he says this is almost chilling. If life was a game book, he'd probably be the true neutral warlock guarding the treasure room. A difficult opponent to beat with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in dexterity. Oh, 8 in dexterity, that's even worse.
Well, I'm not done yet. I actually need to go into the wine cellar. Just need a quick go at the place. So just don't mind me. I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
Go outside, enjoy the party. Bask in the praise and adulation they will no doubt shower you with when the madam speaks highly of you. Surely you've had enough of this stuffy old kitchen by now. You do not want to cause trouble. Both the bratwurst and Hannah want this to be perfect. It would be a disservice and disrespect to toe out of line and risk it being anything otherwise. And more importantly, I will be blamed for any failure that happens tonight.
His intervention almost turns me away. Maybe this is a sign I'm not meant to seek Lorraine out. But...
Please, I just lost something the last time I was down there. It's really important.
15 minutes. 9, 10 minutes. Any longer and I'll pull you out of there myself. The Bratwurst will be furious if he thinks anyone is touching his precious vine without his permission.
Thank you. This seriously means a lot.
He steps aside begrudgingly. At this point, it looks like there's no turning back. The cellar greets me ominously as I descend. The space feels smaller, with a lot more bottles lining the walls compared to before, and knowing what might be waiting for me here makes things worse. I almost hope, in a morbid and twisted sense, that Lorraine would just be standing there waiting for me. It would be just like her to joke about inappropriate meeting in a dark, secluded area. But just like the broken bottles and wine that has spilled on the ground before, no trace of her can be found.
Lorraine! Where are you, Lorraine? I miss you, you know?
Only silence replies. Funny that when you want to find something, that's the time and you can't. The thought that I wouldn't be able to see Lorraine one last time fills me with such despair. Sure, it was crazy to come here willingly in the first place, but all I'm really looking for is closure. And if I can't see her, the least I can do is offer her a prayer. On the verge of tears, I kneel in the middle of the dark, damp wine cellar and put my hands together in a prayer.
May God grant her eternal rest and...
That's when her laughter fills the air. It rings along the walls until it echoes in my head. And like a siren call, it draws me in before it comes to a stop upon reaching a dead end.
Ooh, could it be an adventure then? A secret passage? There must be a hidden switch somewhere. Go look! This is the most interesting thing you've done by far.
Secret entrance? Although the idea in and of itself is inane, only makes this entire endeavor even more perilous. But I need to find a way to open it. Already I'm running my hands across the hall in order to find some sort of hidden switch. It didn't give when I tried to push it open before. I doubt that would have changed anytime soon. But if there's a door, there's likely a way to open it, hopefully without the need to break it down.
A shame I can't roll for perception checks in real life.
It's such a silly thing to say out loud, though there is no amusement on my face. And I do check, glancing at the mirror from the study. With your -8, with your 9 on wisdom, that gives you a -1. So any roll that you make for perception would be bad.
Though a sanity check would be more fitting right now, wouldn't it?
I mean, how long have I been down here searching for the switch of a hidden door? In order to go find a dead girl, no less. It isn't only unreasonable, it's insane. At this point, they'll find me clawing at the walls, using my nails to try and see if there are any grooves or catches I might have missed. I'm surprised I haven't gone past the 10 minutes that was given me, and that I'm not being hauled out of here. I don't want to bank on the chance that I have more time, although I know it's... I really shouldn't let these kind of things bother me too much right now. If I don't continue looking, there's no point in me being down here. Dirt and rocks stick underneath my fingernails in my search, but there, a section of the wall about the size of my palm, and just as well hidden as the hollow wall is, a switch. Or a button, rather.
Face it, Tigress. You've just hit the jackpot.
Spider-Man reference is always great. The excitement I feel at the discovery finds me pressing it without a second thought. When a click echoes in the cellar and the hidden door creaks open, I stop. What should I do? We're gonna go in? No time like the present, eh? I have to hurry and I turn around, and when there's a crash, in my haste I bumped into the mirror, making it fall to the ground and shatter into 100 pieces. And shit, I hope this isn't an original piece. I don't think my insurance will be able to cover it. I can probably find an invitation to replace it, and... The door slams shut behind me and I nearly have a heart attack because of it. But when I see a much more visible lever on this side, I calm down and shake my head. On the other side is a passageway, an underground tunnel that has me mystified for a mere moment until I realize what it holds. Cells closed off by heavy iron bars line the sides. A general sense of death and decay lingers heavily, though the years would have taken away most, if not all, of the stench. Of the foul smell of humans and corpses alike being left to rot. The breeze most likely coming from the other end of the passage that goes through is thanks for that. If the place had been enclosed like a mausoleum, I imagine the odor would be fouler than it is now.
Dear Lord in St. Adelaide, bless these poor souls.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Though the architecture of their time was magnificent, human rights wasn't exactly a big thing back then. And if the Ermengarde Mansion had a place like this hidden away, who knows what sort of heinous acts were done down here. There is no time to dwell on it further, though. Not when a ghastly thing, a corpse of a woman, leans on the wall. Her arms and limbs, almost every inch of her lithe body, is peppered with wounds and rotting flesh. And it is then that the putrid smell of blood and gore hits me, making it so that I don't even question how I missed it in the first place.
How long has this been here? Ugh, that smell. Oh, you're a nasty one, aren't you?
I flinch as the thing twitches. And as soon as it opens its eyes and looks at me with a smile, there's nothing on my mind but horror. I break into a run. I try to keep on running no matter how much my legs and feet scream at me to stop. I keep going, even when I look back and see nothing of her anymore, because I can still hear her. The scampering of her feet, the words she tries to form with her bloodied mouth, and the painful sounds of bones grinding against each other as she moves closer and closer to me.
How long are these damn tunnels?
There's a split second where I know that thing is right behind me, a strange sensation creeping over my limbs when her presence looms over me. And then, suddenly, I can't even do anything before I'm yanked by the hair and pulled back. Still, I struggle up until I'm thrown to the side like some rag doll. I hit the ground on my side, and the musty smell of old hay that reaches me is my only indication that I'm still alive.
Please don't hurt me!
My body hurts, and I keep my eyes shut, afraid of what might happen next.
What's wrong, Marianne? Are you really afraid of little old me?
There's a flash of hope. She can help me. Save me from that thing. But as I see her smile, the same one that thing have, I know then that this isn't Lorraine. I'm a fool to think so in the first place. I never could have been her to begin with. The real Lorraine is dead. She looms over me, backs me further into the cell that I was thrown in.
What are you?
Lorraine turns and shifts into that thing from before. And with that same gruesome grin, it takes a step forwards towards the cell. Towards me. I barely scramble to my feet when the door to the cell slams shut, and it just stands there staring. Shouts for help ring out in the tunnel, but none of them are coming for me. I'm more paralyzed and shocked by what is happening. My throat tightens at being fooled by the image of Lorraine, and at the thought of being trapped down here. So then, where?
Help me! Help me! Oh, help me! Are you getting all this on camera, Carl?
Yeah, but are you guys sure this is a good idea? We're breaking and entering here.
Don't worry, the owners of this place haven't been here in a long time. Look at this thing, though. It has writing in blood like some cheesy 80s horror prop. Wait, I have an idea. Oh man, that's genius!
What kind of butthead would even take this thing seriously? Maybe we can stick this in Rowan's backpack. That's Juarez can panic. Guys?
What? Spit it out! Behind you!
There in the corner of the cell, a digital camera comes flickering to life, and a video has played back on the screen. It was hard to even consider paying any attention to it when my life is on the line. But when the ghost doesn't move and the teenager's mocking shouts of "help me" fill the cell, I just had to watch. And what I had seen, students judging by their St. Goretti uniforms, they were holding
That letter!
and that thing, the woman, she